Okay, so we've talked a little bit about financial aspects. We're going to talk more about financial aspects in a little bit when we do the financial templates. But first, I want to make sure that you've nailed down your distribution model because it's a key part of your business model and your financial viability in terms of how you're delivering. So when we talked about first designing your solution, remember how we talked about Hippocampus and how they piloted their idea? And we talked about piloting as the next step of prototyping and iterating. So a pilot is where you're practicing delivering your offering to a small number of people. And most of you may do that. When you have developed your proof of concept and developed your offering, you'll start piloting by rolling it out at a small scale. But then, once you succeed in your pilot, you need to figure out how can you replicate your pilot? How can you roll out at a larger scale and reach more people? And that's where you need to start thinking about different distribution models, right? What will you ultimately be able to use to reach the most people? So we'll talk about a few different options or a few different dimensions to think about. So the first dimension is, are you going to have a direct-to-consumer model or are you going to go through an intermediary organization? And you can do both. For example, we talked about Vision Spring. They have a direct-to-consumer aspect, which is that they sell eyeglasses at low cost to low-income customers. And then they also go through intermediary organizations where they sell wholesale to retailers. And they also partner with organizations that might be interested in distributing eyeglasses to their constituents, such as schools and employers. So this is what I mean when I say that your distribution could be direct to consumer and or going through an intermediary organization. And there are many advantages to going through intermediary organizations because they already have access to your end users and they already have their distribution channels that you can leverage. So think about that as a way to reach more people. Another option for scaling your distribution after you pilot at one place or with one group of people is social franchising. And what this means is you're not delivering yourself, but another organization is. It's a little bit different from partnering with an intermediate organization because you hand things over to the franchisee. So franchising means that you identify an existing organization in a different location, and they basically get to copy you. They copy your brand, they copy your offering, they copy all the model that you've developed to create your impact. And there's usually a financial transaction here where they pay you in order to provide training and supervision to make sure that it's consistent with the way you do things, and then they are liable to achieve their own financial viability in delivering your offering. And that may be using any of the revenue models we talked about. So they could be either asking their end users to pay or getting a grant-making organization to serve as a customer or whatever. But they're franchising your brand and your offering. And here an organization is franchising. So the next distribution model is a little bit different. It's called micro-franchising, and that's where an individual is copying your offering. And this individual is a micro-entrepreneur in and of themselves. So it's a distribution model because rather than going straight to the consumer, you basically franchise your offering to an individual who then is responsible for getting it to the end user. For example, it could be a community health worker who pays you for a certain package of products that you want to deliver, and then they go door to door and they sell these to people who find value in them, like healthcare products, etc. And this is used a lot, actually. The micro-franchising model is used in health, nutrition, so many examples. And regardless of whether you go through an intermediate organization or franchise to an organization or franchise to an individual in micro-franchising, it's really important for you to spend a lot of time ensuring that there's an alignment of values, of mission, and also of operational efficiency, because you're trusting this individual or this organization with ensuring that the end user receives your offering and achieves the social outcomes that you're setting out to achieve. And so you want to make sure they're aligned on values and prioritizing the social outcomes. And you want to make sure that also they have enough of that operational efficiency to keep costs down to get it done. So it's really important to find the right partners when using any of these distribution models. And then lastly, I want to mention non-monetized methods. So a lot of social entrepreneurs, once they create a proof of concept and ensure their own financial viability, they just put things out there for free. And they want others to copy them. A great way to do that is through Creative Commons. So Creative Commons is a website where you can make something publicly available, but you kind of have a copyright where you're allowing people a free license to use it if they use it in a way that matches your mission, if they use it for social outcomes, not for their own benefits, if they cite you, etc. So a lot of people who provide educational content, for example, and are finding ways to support their own operations by having schools or grant-making organizations or end users pay, will also want to put that content out there for people around the world to use to help spread and scale their impact. So these are all the different ways of delivering the outcomes that you want to deliver, whether you want to scale your pilot yourself to reach as many people as possible, or whether you want to partner with others. And then the last one I'll mention is also consulting and contracting, because it's technically a distribution model where another organization out there is responsible for delivering something, and you've found a way to make that stronger, and so you kind of serve as technical support to that organization. And an example of that is a former student of mine who founded an organization called IDEAS, and IDEAS stands for inclusion, diversity, equity, and social justice. And so this organization supports existing businesses in creating these ideas, the things that I just said. And so that's their way of spreading their impact through consulting and contracting. So there are so many different options for you to reach as many people as possible to create the change you want to make. And you can also use a combination of these different distribution models. In the next video, we're going to talk about operational efficiency across distribution models. What are some tips and tricks to keep in mind? So these are kind of the do's and don'ts of this module that will be really key to your financial viability no matter what your distribution model is.